Hello there and welcome to this week's edition of Craig's Boutique. Both my films this week feature, it's fair to say, characters who have troubled lives. Differently troubled, it must be said, but I will start off with the cinematically released film that I have viewed this week, which is called The Voices and stars Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds in this film is an individual who lives alone above a bowling alley. He works at a bathtub factory and seems quite a nice and pleasant guy. It's only when we get to see him at home that he talks to his pets. He thinks he hears his pets talking to him. He has a dog and a cat, and they both speak to him. So I think you can tell already that this individual might be a bit psychologically disturbed. And the two voices he hears from his cat and dog, the cat is telling him to do effectively bad things, and the dog is telling him to do good things, telling him he's a good boy, and the cat's going, oh no, go into your dark desires, Jerry, fulfill them. Obviously these are his own voices, so it could be interpreted as his own conscience, the good and the bad manifesting themselves in this conversation with his pets. So here we obviously have a very troubled individual. His own life is explored later in the film and why he is like this. I won't say that because that will spoil an aspect of the film. But it's a very interesting watch because effectively this is a black comedy. So there's a lot on show that is obviously very taboo, and if you're easily offended, it's fair to say that this is not the film for you. I think I can pretty much say some of the things that happen in this film because if you've seen the poster or even seen a trailer, you kind of know what's going to go on. He will be killing people at certain points, and he will be keeping their severed heads in his fridge because he can hear voices manifesting in his cat and dog. He can actually also then hear the voices of the deceased speaking to him through their decapitated heads. So there's some very, very interesting conversations that occur in this film, and through consequence, comedic aspects also occur. It's not to say that this film is by any means absolutely hilarious, because obviously regarding subject matter, there's a lot of dark stuff in there. But there is certainly enough high point comedy moments to make it a worthwhile watch. Now I must say, Ryan Reynolds is not my favourite actor by any means in the imagination. I've been saying this to a few people, but it's probably not a good thing to say, oh, well, the only film in my collection that I only have, in my massive DVD collection, I only have one film of his, and considering it's a supporting role in that film, so I've never been that impressed with him as a leading man. But I actually think of all the films I have seen of him, I think this is probably his most interesting role to date. Obviously I've heard a lot of things regarding Deadpool, that he's going to be very good in that, but we'll see about that next year. But it seems like because of his sort of comedic tones and his wisecrackingness, Ryan Reynolds is kind of perfect for this sort of role. Like I said, though, it is a very, very particular taste kind of film. I think you've got to be into dark comedies completely. You've got to like a dark comedy. So it's a love or hate sort of the genre rather than the film, possibly. Dark comedies tend to be either extremely good or extremely bad, I tend to find. At the top end of things, I would place the things like In Bruges and things like John Cusack's Grosse Point Blank. Coincidentally, they both feature films with killers, so obviously that's a very taboo subject, killing people. It's happening again here. And the voices tends to fall just underneath them, I'd say. I wouldn't say it's absolutely brilliant. It has brilliant moments, I personally believe. But there's enough there to make it a worthwhile and an interesting and different to watch for your viewing pleasure. So, and there's an extremely, extremely unbelievable and funny end sequence after the end, and during the end credits, effectively. That will keep you there in the cinema just astonished and flabbergasted and what am I saying again? Sort of opinion. So yeah, there's a point in that bit where you're like, I don't think I can take any more of this. This is just ridiculously funny. um, but yeah, like I say, not every single bit of it is completely achieved. There's bits that are a bit off. It's an unbalanced film. It's fair to say. He is supported in this film, Ryan Reynolds, by a couple of female actors, Gemma Arterton and Anna Kendrick. And it's fair to say they are, well, say, love interests of his. And well, you might kind of know what happens to him by what I've commented on before. So there's some interesting stuff going on there. It's fair to say they don't have much to do, considering their roles. It's mainly a Ryan Reynolds film. But yeah, that is probably a criticism, that they're not given a bit more maybe time and interest, more to do. And Jackie Weaver plays his counsellor effectively, and you'll find out why he's got a counsellor. From describing what's going on here, you know why he needs a counsellor, but why he's got a counsellor is explained in the film. And she's very good actually as well at the end. She's very good at the end of this film. So yeah, it's a truly interesting watch, a weird watch, and I would recommend it to anybody who does love a black comedy. Whether it hits the peaks of your favourite black comedies is remain to be seen. But I thought it was a decent entry in that sort of genre. Not quite top end, but some decent stuff in there. So yeah, The Voices. There we go. That was the theatrically released film of the week. What shall I talk about now then? I think it's my classic film this week, isn't it? And my classic film this week also features an individual who has a troubled life. Only it's a lot different, it's fair to say, and the film is Good Will Hunting. And we all know the story of this. It's a massive film, massive reputation, and massive critical acclaim. And made absolute stars out of Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. And in the process also winning Robin Williams a Best Supporting Actor Oscar. So this was an absolutely huge film. I remember watching it the first time round, and I don't know whether it was the fact that it was so huge. I didn't see it because obviously it's fair to say I'm younger. I was only 9 when it was released in the cinema. So I saw it I probably saw it about 5-6 years ago, possibly. And I don't know whether the fact that it was such a huge film with such a huge reputation that I didn't quite, at the time on my first viewing, appreciate what was going on. I think I was expecting something, in my limited experience at that point in terms of watching and appreciating some films, didn't quite appreciate it. I watched it again this week, and it's truly understandable why it had such the impact it did. It's fair to say that Robin Williams has done roles similar to his role in this film as I think he was is he a psychological therapist, I think he was in this film, but an inspirational character in the process also, in connecting with young people. As we all know from his role in Dead Poets Society, which I think is an absolutely fabulous film, considering events of last year, it's even more emotional and even more poignant, it's fair to say, considering what characters are going on in that film. I will talk about Dead Poets Society another time now, because that is a film I do want to go into at some point. But in this film, he's fabulous. The reason why he appears in this film is because Matt Damon's character is the lead in this film. He is a young Boston lad who does multiple jobs. He works on a building site. He works as a janitor at a university, a highly regarded university, where Stellan Skarsgård is a mathematics professor, a well-renowned and reasonably famous in his field mathematics professor. And he sets his own students in this film a task, a very, very difficult, and only a few people in the world have ever succeeded in solving this mathematical problem, and says whoever obviously will solve this problem will get some sort of massive recognition. he's out at a little reunion at the time when his students come to him and say, "We couldn't wait, Professor, to know who has solved the mathematics problem." And he's like, "Ooh." So he goes over to see, and he sees that it has been solved. So he asks all his students, at first, the people who have alerted him to this, and then later on, as he goes to his class, he asks, "Would the person who has solved this problem please come to the fore now?" And nobody comes to the fore. What he then does, he sets another task to try and figure out who it is, who actually solved this. So he sets it, and he's then alerted to the fact that somebody is solving it. And who is it? It's Matt Damon, who is the janitor. He then seeks him out and finds out he's effectively just an absolutely genius at maths. But his defensiveness and his own social skills are such an effect that he is not able to achieve any sort of recognition in doing what he's good at. And he prefers to live the easy life. Well, I say easy life, the more it's easy life for him, it's fair to say. Hanging out with his friends, going drinking, so on and so forth. And it's then about him trying to get Matt Damon to fulfill his potential. So he goes through numerous therapists to try and connect with him, and they have no success. So he goes to turn to his old college roommate, Robin Williams, who goes with a different tact in going up against his absolute defensive and challenges Matt Damon's defensiveness. And through that, they formed a respect and bond, it's fair to say. I've mentioned Robin Williams' brilliant performance, which he won a Best Supporting Actor for. Stellan Skarsgård did some good, solid support. Ben Affleck is Matt Damon's best friend in this film, and he does some decent work. It's a limited role, it's fair to say, but he does some decent work. Matt Damon is great. It's no wonder he was made such a star by this film and this performance, because he is extremely likeable, but also very troubled and you can see why many people will see themselves in his character about not filling their own potential and things like that, and not believing themselves. And so there's little aspects of like, go for it, that sort of attitude towards the film. Well, we must obviously comment upon the fact that Damon and Affleck wrote the script, and the script is such a vibrant and alive script, and the characters are engaging. Each character's engagement with other characters, when Stellan Skarsgård is debating and discussing with Robin Williams, that they're great conversations. When Damon is with his friends and Affleck, they're great conversations. And obviously when Robbins and Damon are interacting, they're outstanding also. So it's beautifully written, greatly performed, and what can be said really is it is an absolute classic. It is an absolute classic, and it is understood why it's still held in such high regard. I don't really know what more to say really about this film. Is a line I often could say. Great performances, great written script, and yeah, it's fair to say that it is ultimately deserving of its standing in the film world, then and now. So yeah, we had two films here. It's fair to say. People who needed help for different reasons. Ryan Reynolds needed help. Matt Damon needed help. They both, well, I won't say what happens with Ryan Reynolds' case, but we all know what happens with Matt Damon's case. Somebody got it, somebody didn't. But yeah, there we go. Two really voices, a really interesting film, and the voices, and I don't Deadpool Society. and Goodwill Hunting. Yeah, it absolutely is a classic film. So yeah, there we go. I hope you enjoyed me reviewing those films, and if you did, please subscribe to me. If you do, I hope to see and speak to you again. Thank you very much, and goodbye.